you really need to write a handbook to distinguish who you are, how you do things, or in other words, what's your MO? Well, the clicker is still not clicking right. If you have questions or would like to speak to me after the seminar, I will be available in room Andros A for overtime with the expert. We'll have 30 minutes to have a round table setting for any questions you may have. In this seminar, you're going to learn which policies and procedures you need to have in your handbook, how to customize your handbook to fit your mission, how to organize your handbook, proper formatting, and where your employees will sign and initial your handbook. Understanding your MO, how do you do things? That's why you're writing a company handbook. You want to have clear communication with your staff so they understand your MO, who you are, how you do things. And it all starts with your company handbook. In a handbook, there are some must-have policies and procedures. You can pull them off Google. It's code of conduct, health and safety, anti-discrimination and harassment, benefits and compensation, and an equal opportunity statement. I'm going to go through a couple of these. Anti-discrimination and harassment is very important in 2019. Practical jokes, hazing, teasing, along with the other big ones like racial or sexual harassment. I have a story. We hired a manager to open a new facility for us. She filled up nearly 80% of our units in 10 months. I was so proud of her. She was proud of herself. But we had an issue. We kept having leasing agents quit. She was bullying them, every single one of them. We are on our third leasing agent. The manager has been terminated, and we've rented 12% in a month and a half. So it was not the manager filling our units, it was the location. But one of the leasing agents that quit said to me, "I cannot believe your company would treat people this way." The manager was part of my company, and she was a reflection of me. So we did terminate her. The other one is discipline and termination. My company, 1 verbal warning, 2 write-ups. Second write-up, your job is in jeopardy. And then after that, termination. And I don't necessarily write up for the same thing. If you're late, you get a warning. If you've not completed the proper paperwork, you'll get a warning. And then if you use the email for personal email, you'll get another warning, and that's it. It doesn't have to be the same infraction 3 times. Benefits and compensation is the policy that your staff will read to understand. They want to know when payday is, what their paid off time is, holiday pay, insurance, 401k. They want to know what their benefits are. So just keep it simple. You know, with our company, it's 2 weeks vacation, use it or lose it, period. Some companies, if you're here 6 months, you get 5 days. If you're here 10 months, you get 8 days. And it's confusing and hard to understand and hard to keep up with. So any good handbook that has the must-haves will also have should-have policies. And that's a grievance policy, dress code, email and internet policy, cell phone use policy, smoking policy, and drug and alcohol policy. For your grievance policy, you just need to list the staff member who will receive the information from you. If someone is bullying you, they can go to an area supervisor, a manager, or directly to the owner. They just need to know who to go to. The next policy is dress code. This is where if you don't want your manager to have a purple mohawk, put it here. You need to know what who your customers are. If you're in a high-end area, you may want them to wear khakis with a collared shirt, or if you're like our facilities and in every market, just a uniform shirt would do. Tattoos, whatever you're sensitive about, that goes in your dress code policy. And it's who you are and what you do, so you can choose. No piercings other than ears. Internet and email, under my internet and email policy, employees are not allowed to send personal emails through our company email account. They have, which is why we have that policy now. Cell phone use is another should have. In my company, we keep them on silent unless the manager has it transferred to their cell phone, the main line. Smoking policy, this is easy now. The city has taken care of this for us. Look up your city ordinance. That's your smoking policy. No smoking within 200 feet of the door. No smoking except on scheduled breaks would be good as well. Our next should have policy is drug and alcohol. And I think we can all agree no one should be drinking or using drugs on the job. So in our handbook, it says if we suspect you are using drugs or intoxicated, we will send you to a clinic to be drug tested or have a breathalyzer test, because you can't work and play at the same time if you want to work for us. Now we're going to get into the customized policies for self-storage. I'm going to give y'all a minute to take a picture. I see a lot of people holding their phones. Some of them would be customer service, handling money, teamwork, marketing, and leasing expectations. Customer service is a big one with me. That's what sales is all about. So in our handbook, this is how you answer the phone. This is what you do when a customer walks in. This is how you handle an issue with an upset customer. I have 5 pages of customer service in my handbook. Handling money. When, where, and how do you want your money deposited? At one of our facilities, we handle a lot of cash and a lot of transactions, and we have to print 2 receipts. One for if it's cash, one for the customer, and one to keep with the money. Because at the end of the day, if you're off, you don't know why you're off. But if you wrap the money in the receipt, you'll know why you're off. So we have that policy in place. Teamwork. I don't know if any of you have ever received a Google review as an owner that said, they rented me a dirty unit. and it's midnight, you're looking at your Google reviews and you think, how did we rent a dirty unit? It's because your team did not work together. The guy that cleans the units didn't tell the manager, it didn't get put on the needs cleaning list. So everyone needs to know what the other person is doing. We have marketing expectations at every facility. We want you to know who your neighbor is, who the manager at every apartment complex is. We shower them with donuts and pizza and coffee, and that's where the referrals come from. So that's why we have a marketing expectation policy in our handbook. We also have leasing goals, especially for startup. We don't expect everyone to rent 80% in 10 months, but that would be nice. And we have to adjust it. And as an owner, you need to understand that even though you set this goal, you might not make the goal, or you could blow the goal out of the water. We still have it in our handbook that your supervisor will issue leasing goals. You are expected to meet them. But as an owner, just know you may have to change them as time goes on. These are my favorite, the next three. Auction and delinquency policy, legal issues, and disaster procedures. Every good self-storage company handbook, if you're going to have any customized policies, these are the three. We own properties in 3 different states. Every state has a different auction policy. So we have 3 different handbooks. And if we buy property in another state, we'll have 4 different handbooks. But I attach to the back of each handbook the law, the article that's written per the law, in addition to a schedule of delinquents steps for each one. Legal issues, I am not going to bore you with the 1,000 stories I have, but they are very serious. I have learned that if it is legitimate, the law enforcement officer shows up with a search warrant, or he shows up and says, I don't have a search warrant. Probably 18 years ago, I was managing a store, and a law enforcement officer came in. First time ever. And he said, I need you to cut the lock on unit 356. And I said, I'm not doing that. You don't have a search warrant. You cut the lock. And he did. He cut the lock. And he pulled out all of the furniture that was rent to own, and his brother-in-law owned the rent to own store. So I was protected because I did not cut the lock. The police officer comes back in and he said, you need to go lock the unit. No, sir, I am not doing that, but I will sell you a lock and you can go lock the unit. He did. He bought a lock. He brings the keys back, and I said, no, you keep the keys, and I will send the tenant to your office to pick them up. You know, to me, that was not a legitimate use of power for the police officer, but we live in a small town, and it's how it works there. I've also had the ATF show up with a search warrant. Arms dealer was renting from us and had stored illegal or guns illegally, and he was selling them illegally. He showed up with a search warrant. He cleaned the unit out. Done. Easy. They know. Search warrant or nothing. That's just my advice. And sometimes when they don't have a search warrant, they do it anyway. Disaster procedures. Just last week, we had a fire at one of our facilities. In fact, it was the facility where our corporate office is stationed. It was 5:30 Monday. I'm in the swimming pool. I'm not gonna lie. Relaxing, trying to get rid of the stressful Monday. And my phone rings. It's a leasing agent on the other end. Denise, fire! Oh, okay, calm down. I'll be right there. My point is, in my handbook, we have a stop, drop, and roll. That's it. Call 911, secure the facility, call your supervisor. In a disaster, that is all anyone is capable of doing. They can't think of steps 7, 8, 9, and 10. It's stop, drop, and roll. And then once myself or a supervisor shows up, we can deal with the issue in detail. So again, these are the top 3. Customized policies for self-storage. We have more customized policies. It's reporting, daily inspections and walkthroughs, and opening and closing your store. We try not to load our managers down with reports. I can pull them myself. We don't need 20 spreadsheets when we have software that already provides that. Our staff, they're responsible for petty cash, mileage, and marketing reports. Everything else we pull. But we have a system of doing it. My accounting department doesn't need their marketing report. In fact, my accounting department doesn't need any emails other than what they already get. So in our handbook, your marketing report is to be emailed to me. Your petty cash and mileage should be emailed to me and the accounting department. So that's it. If you expect your manager to provide reports, you should tell them what reports you want and when you want them. The next customized policy for self-storage is opening and closing your store. If you open at 9, don't show up at 9. Again, expectations. You expect them to be open and ready. Pull the golf cart around. Do your walkthrough before you open. Put your expectations. Do you want to be open at 9? Do you want the open sign on and the computers ready? We do. And it's listed in our handbook that way. We just keep going with customized policies for self-storage. I hope at the end, some of you can share some of your customized policies with self-storage. I thought of 2 or 3 more and didn't even put them in the seminar. So we have telephone marketing techniques, curb appeal, repairs and maintenance, customer information, and cleaning units. Telephone marketing is when the phone rings, you answer it. If you have a script, you could put that in your telephone marketing techniques. We don't use a script, but if we did, I'd put it there. The manager and on-site staff is responsible for curb appeal. Have you changed the flower beds twice a year? Are your flags tethered? The lettering on your door. When's the last time you checked the lettering on your door? Is your E missing from self, so you really don't even know what the name of your business is? So the manager is responsible for all of the curb appeal, and they should check it every day. One other thing about curb appeal, this is not about the handbook, but a fresh pair of eyes. If you would get a manager from one of your other locations to go look at a different location, they'll catch something that your manager hasn't seen. So it's always good to do that too. Repairs and maintenance. Our managers are responsible for repairs and maintenance. We have a dollar amount that they're allowed to spend daily, weekly, and monthly. So if they almost go over that dollar amount, they'll need to call me before they can schedule the repairs. And of course, any major repair, they would call anyway. Customer information is private. You can't give it out. And you can't expect your manager to know that. You should put it in your handbook so it's communicated clearly. Cleaning units, this is my favorite, one of my favorites. I've cleaned a lot of units in my time. I haven't cleaned very many lately, I will admit, but I would. I'll go open a unit door and I'm just showered with dirt. I can't stand that. So in my section for cleaning units, clean all the doors, scrub down the overhead door, and make sure all of the dirt is gone. We put mouse poison in some of our units, or bait. Bait's probably the better word to use. When we clean them, if we have fields on both sides, bollard post should be painted if you don't have the fancy bollard post covers. We don't. So anything about, well, that's repairs and maintenance, but cleaning units, it's important. You know, we tell everyone, clean it like your grandmother's renting it. And then check on it, make sure they did it right. We're through all of the customized policies already. Y'all may get to go to lunch early and beat the crowd. This is how you organize your handbook. List the titles in order of relevance. So that means you don't want to have your anti-discrimination policy and then cleaning units. You want to keep it must have, should have, and then your customized policies. Covers page and mission statement would be next. Then your policies and procedures, and your customized policies should be last. Especially if you're going to sit down and write a handbook tomorrow or the next day, always start with the must have, should have, and customized policy. You'll get more creative as you go along, so your customized policies will be better. You want to be clear and only use factual terms. Avoid using open-ended words like could, should, may, or may not. In your handbook, you need to be clear. This will happen. You must do this. Not you could do this or you should. You must. Proper formatting. Always have a cover page with your mission statement. Include a table of contents. Bold print each title, but the words after do not need to be bold print. You can include a summary about your company mission, which all starts with a mission statement. There are several. I think I skipped the slide when the little remote wasn't working, but a good mission statement, start with that. So mine is moving is stressful, self-storage shouldn't be. And that's why we don't load our managers down with paperwork or our customers. So that would describe your mission statement, is have a statement and then describe how you do things. That's really important. Then you're going to have your acknowledgement page. The last page of your handbook will have your acknowledgement and initials and a signature line. And of course, the date. Okay, so we have a first question. His question is, what happens if an employee refuses to sign the handbook? Well, if they refuse to sign the handbook, number one, they cannot work for you. But don't be closed-minded. Maybe it's one little section in the handbook. Maybe they can compel you to change your handbook. You never know. So I'm going to listen to what the complaint is, and either I'm compelled to change my handbook, or they agree to sign it, or they don't. But if they don't, it is a requirement of employment with our company to sign that handbook and acknowledge that you've read it. We've rushed through this, but it's going to be lunchtime, so I know you want to beat the lunch crowd. My MO, how I do things, is I focus on easy and effective operations while focusing on customer service. My mission statement matches my MO. So I'm easy, efficient, and I focus on customer service. And my mission statement is moving is stressful, self-storage shouldn't be. Who will you be? How do you do things? It all starts with your company handbook. Questions? Yes, ma'am. The question is, do we have a separate training manual, or is it integrated with our company handbook? It is separate. We have an online training course that we provide, that we've created and provide to all of our new staff members, so it's separate. But it could be. Yes. So the question is, should a new employee initial every page? Yes. Also, in my footer, I put the date that I sent the handbook, and it says Grow Your Storage Company Handbook, February 2019. So in the footer, you could put initials, but I would also make sure the date is on there. Okay, you. How would you go about changing something in the handbook? That's going to be a lot easier for me because right now I'm working on a PowerPoint handbook. Our staff members seem to keep getting younger and they do not want to read a handbook. So when I finish that, I will just change it and send it to everyone. But now, and we do change it, I will just send out an amendment, have them sign that. But at the end of the year, I would change the handbook and send out a new handbook to everyone. Oh. Yes, how often would you have to update it? I do mine every year. But the first time, it was 5 years. And cell phones were not even addressed in my initial handbook. So 5 years was too long for me. I would suggest every year. Okay, the question is, in the state of Colorado, marijuana is legal. Can you legally drug test? I know this in Colorado because we have properties there. Colorado does not have a law governing drug testing. So you can drug test in Colorado. My own personal experience, if I suspect someone's using drugs and it's affecting their job performance, I would just terminate their employment instead of paying to drug test them, because I'm not going to fire them because they failed a drug test. I'm going to terminate them because they weren't doing their job. So, but there is no law. You can do what you want. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am. Okay, what was the procedure in handling the fire we had? We had to identify, well, first it was call 911, secure the facility, call me in the swimming pool. Then we identified every unit that was affected. We identified every unit that was completely destroyed, those that had fire, those that had water damage from the fire trucks. That night we emailed every tenant. Yes, we've had a fire. No, you cannot come to the facility. These are the units that were affected. We'll contact you tomorrow. Well, the next day the phone's ringing off the wall. And we sent out another email that said, these are the units that were affected. If this is not your unit, please stop calling. And then we individually spoke to every single one of those tenants. Those tenants who lost everything, we personally took them down there to show them their unit. Some of the units, the doors could not be closed, so we had to go buy tarps to cover them. The fire's still under investigation, so no one can be around the unit at this time, especially the unit where the fire started. And that's it. I mean, we called our insurance company, we dealt with our customers. Sad situation, walking those customers down there. I had a gentleman who had just lost his wife 3 weeks ago, and he moved in with his children, and everything they owned was in the unit. So that was tough. And then dealing with the guy that started the fire, he tried to put it out. And he has been in the ICU burn unit in Houston. So, I mean, there's such an emotional connection with these people when your building burns. Their life has just burnt, so they think. It's just stuff. It is just stuff. But it's challenging.
What's your liability?
So, right now, we do not have any liability on the customer's goods. We have a lease signed by every tenant. We have an insurance addendum signed by every tenant. In our lease, it's locked tight and says, and even if a judge were to say, yes, you are responsible for this, our lease, which they signed, says they will only store items up to $5,000 worth of value, and that they would not store anything that had sentimental value or that was not replaceable. So I feel confident that we're good legally, but every customer that we showed their unit asked the same question. And only one of them, because it's an old facility, only one of them had customer tenant insurance. Yes, ma'am. Well, it is provided through our tenant insurance company, and it just says, I have been offered insurance. Yes, I'm going to buy it, or I waive all liability to this company. I, as the tenant, assume all responsibility. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that it was an older insurance addendum.
So her question is, since it's an old facility, have we required all of the old tenants to sign an insurance addendum? No. Just like you. We've tried. And some of, yes. It is, and we still have tenants at that facility too that have stored since the 80s. And, but most of our tenants, I would say we're down to 5% that are not on the new lease, and we don't have an insurance addendum. They've stored with us since the 80s. Nothing in there is worth keeping to begin with. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so she's asking about contracts, leases, rental agreements, whatever you want to call them. How do you get a copy to the customer? And we use e-sign in our company. So a copy is automatically emailed to me and our tenant. If you are not on an e-sign program, then you can send the tenant an unsigned copy. They don't need the signed copy. I think you're okay. But ask your lawyer. I'm just a former self-storage manager. Thank you so much for coming.